Okay, so you're interested in getting started with webcomics, but where exactly do you begin? That's what we're going to cover in today's video. This is Chris Baird from selfpublishingmadeeasynow.com, where self-publishing doesn't have to be so hard. So what we're hitting today is how to self-publish a webcomic complete guide. So stick around and we're going to get going right away. So the first thing is conceptualizing your webcomic, and that involves a number of things. The first of which being identifying your genre and style. And part of this is about exploring your influences. In other words, looking and seeing what are the webcomics that you've looked at in the past or other things that have motivated you to think, I want my webcomic to look very similar to this other one that I have read in the past or I've looked at in the past. And the thing to remember with webcomics in the first place is that they start off, you can have them online, so you're able just to go and view and take a look at them. But in addition, they can also be printed, and that's part of where the self-publishing part comes in as well. So you can decide how exactly you want to do the distribution on them. The other thing you want to consider is reflecting on your own preferences. You shouldn't really be doing a webcomic if it's outside of things that you yourself are looking at doing. In other words, where something that you really like yourself. You shouldn't do something, because if you're going to do that, you're going to lose your motivation over time. And as we've discussed a lot of times, motivation is the most important aspect of keeping things going. The best measure to success to see how well things are going is your ability to continually put out content over a long period of time. So it's important that your webcomics do in fact reflect your personal preferences. Additionally, you're going to want to experiment and analyze with the feedback that you're getting. So people are going to give you feedback. You're going to see based upon the number of readers you're getting and the people coming in, and then you're going to change your webcomics to properly reflect exactly that exact same readership to make sure that those people are getting the most out of your webcomics as you're putting them out. So it's going to evolve over time, and it's important to understand you're not going to nail it on your first try. The second thing is it's creating your characters and storyline. This plays a huge role on the success of your webcomic. So you're going to want to spend some time looking at character development. How are you building up your characters as we move through the whole storyline here? We're going to have compelling conflicts that are going to be involved between our different characters, where there's going to be not just, because obviously if there's no conflict, you don't have a story. So there has to be some sort of resistance and conflict that's going on. And you're going to want to use very well done structured storytelling. That is to say, if you look at the story model, how exactly a story is supposed to begin, the middle, and the end of a story, and making sure that yours are actually following that standard storyline model and not just winging it. Because even if you look at like Star Wars and things, they had storyline people on the script to make sure that the plot and the structure and everything was following a standard storyline, which is one of the most important things with your entire thing if people are going to really enjoy it from beginning to end, if that makes sense. The third thing is you're going to be planning your webcomic long form versus short form, episodic versus continuous narrative. So you have a lot of different things you want to consider. So when you're dealing with long form versus short form, you're going to decide how long is this thing going to be. So you have an option in terms of the length of it, and it's going to have a different impact, and it may even hit a different audience or expand the size of your audience based upon which one you choose. Then you're going to have episodic versus continuous narrative. So are we dealing with just like a single one-off sort of episode for each of them? Or is it something that's going to go where they're going to want to get to the next one? And I would tell you the continuous narrative is probably the direction you really should be focusing on. We want them not to just consume it once. We want them to consume it and then buy the next one or purchase or view the next one, even because it's going to be tying it all together. They're going to feel they're going to miss something if they don't do that. And that also involves story and chapter planning to making sure that as we're breaking down, that it's clear it's going from one to the next. And that's where storyboarding and these sorts of things can come in handy, just to make sure that you actually have the story completely done properly. Next, so creating the art. There's a couple things here to keep in mind. The first being choosing your artistic medium, digital versus traditional. And you might be thinking of web comics that the idea is only can be online, and the answer is no, it can also be in paper. In addition, now it can't only be on paper, otherwise it's not a web comic because it's not available on the web. So you're going to explore the advantages of the digital medium, and that would be it's available on everybody's phone. Everybody's phone, tablet, computer. It's a lot easier to carry it around around and review it. That's the big one there. But in the traditional medium, you have the tactile experience that goes with it, where you can actually touch the paper. You feel and smell the paper. It has a huge impact for a lot of people. Why? Especially with webcomics, you can read them again and again, and you can hold them in your hand. You don't need the internet or any technology to do this. And the final one there is to combine the best of both worlds. So you can both have it in the digital format on the web, and then you can also go through the self-publishing process that I discuss with my clients, my one-on-one program and my coaching clients, where exactly you're able to get it into the paperback format. But no matter which option you choose, a lot of it hangs together, and you can do both. And that's why I would recommend doing the hybrid option when you're going down this thing. Okay. The next point is overview of useful tools for creating webcomics, like Procreate, Adobe Illustrator. So there's a couple things. Now, Procreate is not something I personally have used. It's a powerful digital art app designed specifically for iPad. It offers a wide range of brushes, layers, and advanced features, making it ideal for creating webcomic art. So this is a really big one that you can definitely consider using, and I would probably do it by using one of these devices. Particularly, I like doing art on the iPad. The other is Adobe Illustrator, and it's a vector graphics editor that's widely used by professionals in the art industry. It's an excellent tool for creating clean, scalable artwork for web comics. So that's another option. And the final would be Clip Studio Paint. And Clip Studio Paint, it's a versatile software tailored for for comic creation. It provides a wide range of specialized tools and features specifically designed for comic artists, including customizable panels, templates, speech bubble tools, and a vast library of comic-specific materials. So you can see these are different tools that you definitely should consider if you're getting into web comics. So, tips on designing characters, settings, and panels. So the first thing is for character design, you want to make sure you have clear visual traits for your individual characters so they can see it from when we're going from one webcomic to webcomic, or even from frame to frame, that it's clear to see which character is which, that reflects their personality through the design that you're doing. So if the person's like angry, you might have them looking very angry in the way the design is done. And then you're going to go through iteration, refinement, as you make changes to what you're doing in order to make sure that you really hit your goal when it comes to these characters and their design. The next thing is the setting and design tips. A couple of these would be research and reference. You have a couple things you're going to want to research what different options are available. You're going to create this really atmosphere and mood using this, and you're going to make sure it's consistent and believable as you're moving forward, setting the design for the overall look and feel of your webcomic. Then comes the panel design tips. You have visual storytelling, where you're making sure instead of writing all the words out, you're actually doing it visually, and you're going to balance with a lot of variety of what you're doing so your readers don't get worn out on just every page looking identical. And at the same time, you do need to consider the readability and clarity, so it's very easy for your readers to get through your webcomic, making it easy. So, writing the script. The first thing here is the importance of a compelling script in webcomics. You need to make sure you have an engaging storytelling is going on. We talked about this before with the story arc, making sure that's in place. We did the character development, so we're not just all these flat characters, but you're really building out on round characters that your readers are going to be able to connect with on a positive or hate them on a negative, but really building them out. And then you're going to want to do dialogue pacing, where we're scripting the crucial role in shaping the dialogue and pacing within the webcomic. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be bringing them to life that reflects their personality and drives the story forward. And that's the most important thing. Driving the story forward should always be done. And we do it with our dialogue and then also the pacing of the overall effect. Okay. The next thing is balancing dialogue and visual storytelling. So how are we going to do this? You should show, don't tell. And that means that you're going to use your comics to really get this dialogue and visual storytelling locked in properly, so that when they're reading it, you don't have to tell them everything. They can simply look at the diagrams or the drawings that you have in your webcomic and get an idea of what you're trying to convey. The message comes straight through, so you don't have to tell them every little bit. In addition, you're going to use your dialogue strategically. It's always involving pulling the story forward. So you're going to want to do that and embrace silence and visual cues. You, again, don't have to tell them everything. You can simply have silence where certain things are happening, and just based on certain visual cues, use, we get a really good idea of what's happening here. The next thing is tips for writing compelling scripts for webcomics. The first thing is you're going to engage the readers from the start. Don't make it a really slow-moving story. Start right off in the beginning to make sure that the scripts are tight and kick things off with a bang right from the start to pull them in. We need to hook your readers early and develop multidimensional characters. They're not just these flat characters. They are real live people. That's what we want to convey within this specific webcomic that you're doing and planning for effective pacing so that the story is movement. It's always moving forward. And we have this pacing where things are going where it's easy for your reader to understand what you're trying to do. So bringing your webcomic to life, layout and lettering. The first thing to remember here is importance of effective layout in a webcomic. And a couple of these are done, again, with the visual storytelling, the pacing and the rhythm. That plays effective there, and just the readability and accessibility. So it's very easy as they're going through the entire webcomic to easily be able to see the text. And also in terms of where the bubbles are, the comments, the thought bubbles, it pulls them visually so they're able to see the flow that you're intending for them to have when they get onto the page. The second thing is tips on arranging panels for maximum impact. You're going to want to consider the visual hierarchy. So in terms of where the eyes are flowing, you're going to want to control that really tightly so that we're going from this frame and then it's this frame and then it's this frame, seeing what they're going to do. And you're using different panels to transition effectively so that as we're moving through the panels, the story's moving through. And that's one of the things that's a challenge as compared to just writing a normal text. And you're going to create dynamic compositions, which means that maybe some of your panels are slanted or some of your panels are in different shapes and sizes in order to really pull the readers in there so it's sort of dynamic and their eyes don't just get tired of the same old thing. The third thing is choosing the right fonts and placement for dialogues and captions. We were just discussing this a little bit. You need to consider readability when they're going through it. Reread your own work just to see how it looks and how it feels. You want to match your tone and genre to the way that you play this out with these fonts and such, and ensure proper placement and size for the different fonts. So building your website. It's a web comic, isn't it? So that means you're going to want to have a website. That's one of the options we talked about a little bit earlier. And the first thing here is you're going to want an overview of platforms suitable for publishing webcomics. The first thing is you can do webcomic specific platforms. There are platforms that are designed specifically for webcomics, and that means there's already going to be an audience there. So that means you don't have to use as much time and late work in order to straighten that out. The other thing is self-hosted websites, like using a WordPress website. Like I like to use WordPress myself because you own the area, but then you have to drive the traffic and figure out how you're going to get people to come there. And the final is social media platforms that actually support webcomics. That's also an option, but I like of the best of them, it would be self-hosted websites like I like to use in mine. You can find some of my resources, my affiliate links below in the comments on that. And for more information, I can look at your exact specific situation just with a 7-minute power session, which you also can book right below, where we just go back and forth on Slack for 15 minutes, just $7, and we can take a look at your situation, see what works best for you. So, number 2, pros and cons of each of these platforms. Now, the first thing is the webcomic specific platform. You get the pros because you have a built-in audience, the people who are really wanting to do that. But the problem is there's a big competition, so you're having to compete with all of the other artists who are on the same platform doing this. The other is the self-hosted websites, and the pro is that you control the whole website. You can control the way everything goes, but the problem is it involves some initial investment, both of time and money, of getting it started as opposed to an existing one. But what about the social media platform? The pros would be you can access to a larger user base than the potential, but the problem is limited control, and they can literally kick you off their platform anytime they want, and that is a huge problem. Does that make sense? Number 3, detailed step-by-step guide on setting up a webcomic website. So the first thing is you're going to choose a domain name and hosting provider. I have some of the ones that I use below in the description in my affiliate links. You're going to set up your website. Then we're going to upload and organize your comic content on the website. You're going to implement the reader features and engagement tools And you're going to optimize for search engines and mobile devices to make sure that it's easy for people to find exactly where your thing's at. After that, you're going to set up analytics and tracking. And I know this is a lot of work. I talk my clients through exactly these steps. If this is something that's right for you, you want to have it on your website, but you don't really understand how to do this website thing, I can talk you through. I have a background in all sorts of WordPress web development. No problem. We'll just talk you straight through it. I don't care whether you're 20 or whether you're 100. We can talk you through each of the steps. It's very easy. The next thing is that you're going to promote and market your webcomic website, and then you're just going to maintain and update it as time moves forward if you're going this particular route. So, publishing your webcomic. The first thing to remember here is creating a publishing schedule and why consistency is important. And the first thing is the schedule is going to establish right from the start. I publish on these days of the week without fail. You can always expect me to do that without any problems at all. And that's a really powerful thing to tell your people who are your ideal target readers. You're going to maintain that consistency over time. So you better be interested in the topics you're writing about. And the benefits of consistency mean that your readers are going to keep coming back on specific days to see the latest piece of content. Number 2, tips on presenting and organizing your webcomic on your site. The first is you want clear navigation and archive. So you're going to want to make sure that it's easy to navigate around, and you can go to the archive to see older content. You're going to have your episode descriptions and titles so it's easy to read, reader-friendly layout and design so it doesn't hurt the eyes when they're reading it here on the web, and visual consistency and branding. We want to make sure that they can tell it's you every time and not just some random artwork that you have from time to time, which is a terrible way to go. Number 2, tips on presenting and organizing your webcomic on your site. The first thing is you're going to want to engage with your readers through comments and feedback to make sure that your readers are really well connected with exactly what you're up to. Does that make sense? So that when they're coming there, they can leave comments, and then you're going to incorporate that in your future ones. You're going to showcase additional content so they can see what's up and coming and what you're going to be producing later, and you're going to optimize it for sharing. You're going to have those little sharing and social media buttons on there so it's easy for them to click to share what you're producing here. So, number 3, how to set up RSS feeds and email subscriptions. This is a crazy important one. RSS feeds mean they can subscribe like a blog almost and automatically do it. If you're using WordPress, it'll happen automatically, and most of these other sites also. So whenever you come out with new content, it will show up in their news reader, which is something I use. I use Feedly to do my news reading, and that's how I read newspapers nowadays, right? And in terms of your email subscriptions, you're going to want to go for the company. I use ActiveCampaign. You can find my affiliate link below in the description. And I also talk all of my clients through exactly how to do this. And sometimes if you're just looking for general direction, you can always just book a discovery session below in the description. You'll find more information on that. So we can look at your specific situation and for absolutely free. And I will let you know exactly which offers I believe would best meet your needs. Then we have promoting and managing the subscriptions. Okay, so you're going to want to make sure that people can subscribe. And the 2 most important things that you own is in all 3 things. One is you own your intellectual property, your IP. You're going to own your website. Nobody can take that from you. And the third thing is you're going to own your email list. And so it's very important to keep your email list up to date and up and going so that they're easily able to find it. Okay. So marketing and promoting your webcomic. The first thing is the importance of building a reader community. Reader engagement and loyalty is the absolute most important thing. We need people coming back and reading it week after week after week. We want to get feedback and insights from these ideals in the community, and in order to support the growth in order to have that, because we're going to want those people to keep coming back and start helping us with their purchases of our stuff, which we'll be hitting in a little bit. Number 2, overview of marketing strategies, social media promotion, collaborations with other webcomic creators, and attending comic cons. So social media promotion, you're going to make sure that whenever you're coming out with something, it's being promoted across all of the different social media networks. You're going to have collaborations with other webcomic creators, like you'll show my stuff and I'll show your stuff. And so that increases the size of the audience we're reaching. And attending comic conventions and events is a fantastic, spectacular way to sell your material, because your target audience are all gathered in one spot and they're very eager to buy, where you can push your website, maybe use a QR code, or you can have copies of the paper versions of your content and have it out there. Number 3. building an email list or fan club. So we're going to create compelling incentives. So if they do it, they can get free things. You're going to promote signups on your website. So we're building out our email list. We're going to regularly communicate with your subscribers so they don't forget you and mark you as spam. And you're going to cross-promote and collaborate with other webcomic creators who will also share your content in exchange for you doing the same. So monetizing your webcomic. The first thing is you have various ways to make money from your webcomic, like Patreon, merchandise, paid subscriptions, ad revenue. Now let's talk about these. Patreon is not my favorite, but it is an option. They take a very good chunk of change from you if you do go with them, but at least it makes it easy for people to subscribe. The downside of Patreon is the fact that you're going to have to, when you're dealing with it, well, we'll hit that in a little bit. The second one was the merchandise sales, and merchandise sales would be like you're creating products that they can buy, little dolls, little plushy things. There's all sorts of options available for your books. Paid subscriptions. If they want to read the webcomic, they have to pay. So you have a gateway. And we have ad revenue, where we're running Google ads on our website around the webcomics, and people will be clicking on those, and that will help us earn money along as Amazon earns money. I don't recommend that last option because it decreases the reader experience, but it's very tempting if you have a lot of traffic coming to your website. Okay. 2, pros and cons of each of the monetization methods. So the first is Patreon, and it allows them to directly support. The downside is they take a really big chunk of change there, and they also have to have an account on Patreon in order to give money, okay? Merchandise sales, the pro is that it gives you the ability to really build out your branding and have these little dolls or toys or whatever it might be that's associated with it, and it makes it easy there. The cons, it requires an upfront investment. Just like with the paid subscriptions, it offers unique and premium content, but the con is if they've already been used to getting free content, it can be hard to sell, okay? So number 3, tips on how to successfully launch a Patreon or online store. The first thing is you should build up anticipation and promote the store in advance so we get the biggest bang for our buck when we do launch it. We want to clearly communicate the value of our webcomic to the community and engage with your audience, always going back and forth and finding out what do they like, what exactly do they not like with our webcomic. As you can see, doing webcomics in conclusion can be a bit of a challenge because there's so many things to learn. That's one of the reasons why I definitely always recommend going with some sort of my one-on-one program or my group coaching so that we're able to walk you through the steps. My question for you today is, have you managed to publish a webcomic? If you have, you can leave a link below in the subscription. Or if you're thinking about it, leave a comment below in the comments area, and I respond to all of the comments, and we can take a closer look at your exact situation. Or if you prefer, you can grab my free self-publishing secrets checklist below in order to learn the key steps to getting your book self-published and selling. And I will see you in the next video.